Tilt it forward and remove those two bolts that's holding the front cover, and then you remove the 8 bolts that holds the front cover. I mean, don't take the top one, take the bottom one, which is actually the front one. When you remove that, remove the bottom screw and then remove the top bolt. Do the same thing on the other side, and then the middle two, you do not have to remove it. I mean, you can just loosen it. That can be in place. So loosen the middle two. Don't take the bolt off, and then slowly remove the front cover. So the front cover is off. A black line circle around the flange. That means it's all adjusted. It's decentered. Loosen the nut. Use a 15 mm wrench. Loosen the whole both of them and take the bottom nut out, which I would call first nut, and then keep the second nut finger tight. Do that for all the bolts. This is an example of the drum that's misaligned. You can see this, the flange is not in the middle of the circle. Just to see that, we are going to show the alignment here. We just put a ruler here, and then you can see the gap going up and down. Now we need to find out where exactly we need to address. So put a marker pen and move the marker pen slowly, and then so that it touches at the point where it's sticking out. Identify a point where the gap is minimum. Take your marker pen and make a mark right at the point where there's a minimum is. Makes approximate is enough. So right now let's stop it. So I have identified a point where the gap is the minimum. And now if you look at the bottom, that's where the drum is off from the flange, the maximum. We need to take a wooden piece and slightly leverage this, push it until you bring the drum to the center, watching the line at the flange. Now you see that it's reasonably well. If it went too much, then you go to the other side and push it. So we are going to try back and forth couple of times to turn this way, turn the grinder on with the green button at a slow speed, and make sure I see the circle. You can see the flange is right at the center. I'm going to take a ruler and confirm that the gap stays within the limit. Now you can see that the gap doesn't change the maximum. I'm going to go to the minimum point, and then you can see that the change is within about 2 millimeters. While you are moving that drum to bring it in the center, make sure, when you are rotating, do not rotate it with your hand. Let the drive do that, run at a minimum speed. Use your finger and finger tight all the bolts before we use a torque wrench to adjust the torque. You need a torque wrench. It's a good quality torque wrench. Set your torque wrench with 12 foot-pound or 16.7 Newton meter, and then you have 15 millimeter socket, deep socket with the torque wrench. When you tighten that, you go crisscross. First do the number 1 and number 3 and number 4 and then number 2. You follow the instructions for the torque wrench. In this torque wrench, we have to tighten until I hear the click sound. It's the torque. So I'm going to repeat that for all the 4 bolts. Since we have already tightened the first bolt to the correct torque, so we need to hold it from going again more, and put the second nut and using a second wrench, in this case socket, and tighten the second one, not the first one. You have to hold the first one with the wrench and then tighten the second one. Do that with all the other 4 bolts. We are at the final check. We are verifying to make sure that the wobbling is within about 1 to 2 millimeter gap variation. So it looks perfect. Now the drum is aligned. There's no wobbling.